welcome to the newest edition of Animals, Nature, and You. And by the newest edition, I mean the sense of that this particular format, this 10-minute Tuesday format, is all new. And it's something I want to continue through the season. This comes from the fact that at the end of our last episode, our interview with Mike Veal and Global Conservation Forest, I spent about, 6, 8, maybe 10 minutes talking about rhinos and rhino conservation, what's currently happening in the wild. And I felt it was an important follow-up, but then I started thinking, well, that could be a standalone episode in the sense of keep the interview, allow you, the listener, to go, okay, I heard the interview, I'm done with it, but then we could do a follow-up later. That being said, I don't want 10-Minute Tuesday to constantly always be some sort of forced or not needed follow-up. Sometimes the interviews are the interviews, and it's good to go. We don't need to cover anything else. So 10-Minute Tuesdays is going to be, from here on out, sometimes a follow-up to the interview we just had to give more depth or information about things that were talked about that we couldn't quite get to during the interview. It might also be more of a dive into scientific findings. One thing I definitely want to unpack and talk about with everybody, raccoons becoming domesticated. Do you remember that? The end of last year, end of 2025, there are headlines all over the place about how urban raccoons are becoming more domesticated. Could they be your next pet? I can only imagine the scientists who put that paperwork out and did that study had to be so frustrated with those headlines, because if you actually go and look at the paper, that is not at all what the paper was saying. The discrepancy, the distance between the headlines and the stories that were coming out versus the actual scientific findings, big giant gap. Big, huge. So I want to take things like that, too, that are happening in our culture, happening in headlines, and go, well, wait a minute, hold on. Let's unpack this and look at what's really happening. I think it'd be fun to do that. And also new findings, like what's going on with certain wildlife in the wild, or new finding in studies and research around animal behavior, or even humans for that matter. We're all connected. That's why we do this. So that's what you can expect with 10-Minute Tuesdays coming up. And honestly, I feel it's special enough. It should have its own jingle. It should be its own little kind of separate thing. So when you hear the music come on, you know it's going to be 10-Minute Tuesday, but well, that's not in the budget. So for now, you'll just deal with me talking alone by myself and using the music that goes for all of Animals, Nature, and You, the podcast. I would also like to take this moment here, as we're only a few minutes into the 10 minutes for 10-Minute Tuesday. I want to take this moment here to give you a little background to this podcast. I thought it'd be a fun little space to give you a peek behind the curtain, if you will. Now, I know the trailer that I put out at the beginning of the season does explain what the goals are, what we're trying to accomplish here with Animals, Nature, and You, why we're doing it. But I want to give you a little peek behind the scenes in the sense of how did I land on this name? How did I land on this brand, for lack of a better term? It was a process. I was laid off in September of 2025, and it really put me in a bit of a tailspin in the sense of what do I do next? I had been at that zoo for almost 25 years doing wildlife education, doing communications, doing ambassador work, spokesperson work, representing conservation groups and conservation organizations, talking about species and animals, engaging with kids in children's hospitals, engaging with senior citizens at their facilities, engaging with people on television and in person too, all of it. And suddenly I find myself, and then on podcasts, I was doing a podcast before this one. And suddenly I found myself without that. And I had a discussion recently where I talked to somebody privately about how we tie our identity of who we are into what we do, which is, I think, a very natural thing to do as a human. I'm a farmer, you go way back. I'm a hunter, I'm a gatherer, whatever. We put that label. So as we traverse through our life, we identify with the job title we have. We say, hey, what do you do? I'm this, I'm that. This is what I do. Whatever it might be. I was aware of that enough that it didn't completely unseat my self-identification so much as I had to remind myself that what I am, who I am, is what I brought to that position and that job that I did, and that I'm still me even without that job. And so I started to unpack, what do I do with that? What do I do with, how do I now move through time and space? I still got to pay my bills. So for now, I decided that I'm not done telling stories. I'm not done interviewing people. I'm not done talking to people about animals and nature and you. And my why statement is what started this process to figure out how to land here. My why statement is something I've always measured a job opportunity against, or a new position, or how I was doing something to really make sure I was going to feel good about doing the work. My why statement simply is, I believe we all have an innate desire to remain connected with the natural world, and therefore I live my life reconnecting people to that very thing. opening up those opportunities to create connection to nature, animals, wildlife, other people doing the work, etc. That's always been my measuring stick. So now it's time for me to put my measuring stick out there and say, this is what I'm doing. So I started kicking around the idea of doing a podcast. I could do a podcast. I've done a podcast before. I could do this. So I taught myself all this stuff to do independent podcasting. I needed a name. Well, what's my why statement? Innate desire to remain connected. Well, could I play into the word innate? N8? And the amount of paper I went through, writing down different ideas and everything else, landed eventually on nature is definitely part of this conversation. Animals are part of this conversation, and people are a part of this conversation. We are all tied in together, whether it's conservation work or just living in general. We all exist together. So nature, animals, and people. And well, it seems a bit to say people almost feels like that's something outside of us. It's people over there. So I landed on you because I wanted the audience, you, to feel included. It's nature, it's animals, and it's you. Then I started to kick around, well, how will we play with that? What's that look like? And then the acronym NAY, N-A-Y. I was like, ooh, nay, that's a negative. Not spelled properly, but could also be what the noise a horse makes. But nay, the way it was spelled was a negative, like, nay, no, I don't want to. Then I was like, duh, flip it around. Animals, nature, and you. That acronym is any. Anyone can do conservation. Anyone can do it at any time, any place, anywhere. Picking up a piece of trash, gathering your community together, get support for another conservation group doing work around the world. Anyone can do that, anytime, any place. Animals, nature, and you. Ta-da! It's funny. I almost said it's not my idea because I feel like it came to me from an outside source. So it was my idea technically, but it also felt like it wasn't my idea. It felt like it just naturally became. When you look at the icon for it, the cover art, as they call it in podcasting, everything is, you have to absolutely have these bold words and people have to know exactly what it is when they look at it, and it's got to stick out. I didn't quite use bold words, but I chose a circle. I wanted to start with that because that felt to me the circle of life, the circle of nature, the food web. We're all interconnected in that circle. But I wanted a circle that wasn't a solid circle. So I found a brush stroke thing within Canva, and then I played around with different fonts and came across what looked sort of as a natural put together, organic material put together sort of font. And then I kicked around the colors for a long time, different color palettes from safari type colors to camping type colors to forestry colors, and landed on what landed on what felt initially as sort of basic blue and green of Earth. We see a drawing or artwork of Earth. It's always the blue ocean, the green land. And from a distance, we see the pictures from space. It's the blue and the green marble. But it felt right. It felt right. Those colors feel right. It's Earth. It's our home. It's our planet. It's where we are. It's encapsulated within the circle. It's all about animals, nature, and you. And that's the backstory, really, in a very short, short as my long-windedness can go. This is the short version as to how I got here. And that all leads up to this. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I cannot thank you enough. For those of you who have started watching on YouTube and they're subscribed there, I've seen the numbers go up. The viewership is much more than I expected. Honestly, it almost didn't even happen on YouTube. I was like, that's an added version of editing that I'm not very good at. I'm not sure I want to do that. I was so close to not doing it. Like, well, I'll just push some stuff out there and see if anybody watches it. There are just as many of you watching on YouTube than there are listening on the audio version of this podcast. So thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all very much. If you want to get in touch, you know how to get a hold of me. All the information is in the show notes down below, wherever you're watching or listening to this, at ZoologyRick. And then zoologyrick.com is my website. You can get a hold of me there. This particular podcast, Animals, Nature, and You, has its own Instagram page too, so you can check that out if you want to. I can't thank you enough. I really appreciate you so much. This has been a huge learning experience for me, a huge shift for me, but also feels like it's a step into being my authentic self without having to abbreviate any part of me. And I'm really excited about the future guests. I've already got more interviews that are done, more interviews scheduled. This is going to be very fun. I think I might have gone over 10 minutes already for 10 Minute Tuesday, so I'm going to wrap this up. Have a good one, everybody.